Everyone's muted.
Okay. Okay, well, let's get started. So I'm going to give you guys a little bit of a backdrop into Microsoft as we get started here. And I'm going to start out with a slide that's really near and dear to my heart. And it is, as you see here, a slide with equality versus equity. And much of my childhood and my siblings' childhoods, we spent educational years like the little child here who can't see over the fence. In order to enjoy equality, we have to make sure everyone has access to the same opportunities, and that means possibly offering students different things. And so that's something that we're going to talk about here today, and how to create inclusive classrooms and how students can personalize their learning experience so that they all have access to the same opportunities in their educational environment. So I'm going to start with here the inclusive technology and how Microsoft likes to think about these things. And there are three categories that Microsoft keeps in mind while they're working in the inclusive technology field. The first is students, and students of all abilities. They want students to be able to do their best work, enable them to personalize their learning experience in a way that works best for them. And the second is educators, and enabling educators to engage every single learner by providing accessible tools for the classroom. And last, on the school level, equity and inclusion is something that is top of mind to everyone, from administrators to parents to educators, and wanting to make sure that the needs of all students are met and empowering them to reach their full educational potential. Okay, just a reminder again to make sure all computers and cell phones, if you're dialing in via phone, is on mute so that everyone can have a clear experience here. So this next slide here, from an accessibility, oops, we got something skipping slides here. There we go. Okay, so Scholastic put out a survey in 2014, and they surveyed 14,000 teachers. And during that time, they learned that our educational environments today are vastly different than maybe when you and I went to school. And so during that survey, they learned that educators are reporting classrooms that have reading levels that span 4 or more grade levels. And 3/4 of all classrooms have students with special education needs. That can be you know, an IEP, a 504, or some unique set of needs that require a level of accommodation. And then half of all of our classrooms today have students who are non-native speakers or English language learners. And so, you know, with all of those diverse needs, up to 50% of instructional time can be lost due to trying to manage those different needs, including assistive technology. And then from an accessibility standpoint, about a billion people globally require some level of assistive technology. AT benefits everyone, including people with permanent disabilities, such as some of the ones listed in the slide here, to individuals who have temporary impairments like a broken arm, or even people who have situational requirements like working hands-free. Disabilities, as you guys well know, come in many different forms, both visible and invisible. And so many of us here today are gathered on the topic of dyslexia, dysgraphia, and dyscalculia, which are disabilities that are largely invisible. And we're going to talk about inclusive design and how when you design inclusively, it can help all people, not just those with impairments. And one of the last points before we kind of get into demonstrating the actual tools I want to make about Microsoft in the education space is that their newish CEO, Satya Nadella, is really a key part of Microsoft's new mission to empower every person on the planet to achieve more. And if you think about that, they're not saying 75% of the population or 82% of the population, or even the population that already has access to everything. They're saying every single person. So inclusion is really a core part of their message, and they're building accessibility into all of their core products and across platforms. And you're going to see some really amazing things today that literally were not possible just a handful of years ago, and probably would have greatly changed my life as a student. And you're going to see Microsoft keep going on these inclusive technologies. And so what we see today is going to be vastly different from what we experience 5 years from now. So last slide before we get into our demonstration. And so Microsoft has a hackathon annually, and this is global in the company. And this is something where any person in the company can work with anyone they like on any technology they like for 1 week. And so this is their global hackathon. And in 2015, a group of reading, font, and accessibility experts got together with individuals in the education department to look at the latest science, technology, and research on dyslexia, specifically because dyslexia is something that prevents a significant amount of the population from reading printed word and further accessing education and even jobs. And so they decided to build some things together as an add-in, put those into OneNote, and actually won the hackathon that year. And then they went on to work with educators and students focused on dyslexia to see how these tools served that community. And they discovered that these same capabilities that help students with dyslexia help individuals with dysgraphia, help English language learners, students with ADHD, emerging readers, and really all students, so many beyond their initial intention. And so, without further ado, I'm going to escape out of our PowerPoint, and I'm going to try to be really, transparent here in what I'm doing so that you guys know, because otherwise I know oftentimes when you're learning a new technology, it can look like a bit of a magic show, and that can be really confusing. Let me see. So, full disclosure, I'm a little bit new to GoToWebinar, and got to make sure it's sharing my screen appropriately here. So we're going to start out in OneNote Notebook. You guys should all be looking at a screen that looks like it's got notebook tabs on the left side and a big purple banner across the top. Diane, could you confirm that that's the case?
Yes, it is.
Okay, wonderful. So this is OneNote Desktop, and this is the desktop version for native computers. So I happen to have a Microsoft computer and actually always have. So this is the desktop version. There's a free online version for anyone who has iPad or Mac, Chromebook, other types of devices. They're going to use the OneNote online version. And I want to make sure to call out these things so that you guys, again, have all the knowledge that you need to be able to access these tools afterwards. So right now, for the sake of this demonstration, I'm going to show you this text. It says third grade reading, and we're looking at a story called The Closet Creature. This is something that a third grade student that I do some advocacy work for, this is one of his examples, and he's a third grader who is diagnosed with dyslexia midpoint of his third grade year. So you can imagine what reading in the classroom is like for him. He's a bit behind. The great thing is he's getting structured literacy as an intervention built within his school day. So that's really awesome. And so what the school needed to do was figure out how can we bridge that gap between what we're offering as an intervention and what he's experiencing in the classroom. And so they're using the Immersive Reader tool here. And so what his educator does, and I'll show you what he does later, but his educator goes to the Insert tab here. And if you click on File, it'll literally pull from your own computer here. And I always liken that to opening my closet for people that I don't know. So I'm very disorganized in my own files. Imagine that. And so anyway, if you click on File, it's going to pull from your computer. If you save things into a Word document, and most things can be changed from a PDF to a Word document or a Google Doc to Word, you can use a Word document and have it inserted into OneNote Notebook. When you're done with that, you're going to go to your View tab, and then you're going to click on Immersive Reader. And from there, what Immersive Reader is doing is it's essentially putting a skin over top of that page and making your content more accessible. So if we go down to the bottom and click play, it's going to be text to speech.
The Closet Creature by Kelly Heshway. Fun. Fun.
So I think everyone could hear that. We have a computer-generated voice here. Sounds very human-like. And you can imagine Microsoft has the technology to make it sound really good. So it sounds great. If we go over here, we've got our voice speed and our voice selection. Our voice, you can choose male, female. But where it gets really fun is under these text preferences up here. So I can change the size of the text and I can increase the spacing. And what my sons often tell me is that if you remember that text before we clicked on Immersive Reader, in this view, it's really closely kerned together. Whether you're dyslexic or not, or someone who struggles with eye strain, to look at text like this can be really difficult. So to be able to change that based upon your personal preferences really helps a lot. So my kids tell me they like it in this manner, and my middle school dyslexic says when he has spaces in there, it tells his brain to slow down. Those are his words. He says when everything's all crammed together, he just speeds through it, and by the time he gets to the end, he doesn't remember what he read. So moving down here, we have font choices, again, based upon personal preference. And then we also have background colors. So whether it's reducing eye strain, or it's an individual who has low vision, whether it's personal preference or the very small percentage of the population that might have some convergence insufficiency, you have options here to choose a background color to suit your needs and your preferences. Under the grammar options up here, this middle section, we can click on syllableification, and all the while it's reading, it will be breaking words into syllables.
Adam opened his eyes and pulled the covers up.
My speed's a little high there probably for most who are listening. We also have highlighting of parts of speech. So this is an amazing feature that my middle schooler is finding useful right now. So we can highlight the parts of speech, we can show the labels above or not. We can also choose the colors. So some of the educators that have integrated Immersive Reader and Microsoft Learning Tools will say, okay, we're going to highlight all of our nouns in purple. So again, you have the ability to choose the colors based upon whatever your preferences or needs are at the time. And moving on under this book symbol here, these are our reading preferences. If you remember the original reading rulers, something that they used when I was going through school a number of years ago, but not going to tell you how many years, they had these reading rulers they would put over top of the paper so that you're not looking at everything all at once. So here we have what's called line focus mode, and with a click of a button, we can choose how much content we'd like to see on a page at one time, with the option to reducing it to a very small amount. And again, if you bump up that text size, you can get it to just reading a couple of words on a page at a time, again, depending on the personal preference. So that's pretty neat. One of my absolute favorite features is called Picture Dictionary. And this is something that's brought to you in partnership with Boardmaker. They make all the visual content for individuals who have are nonverbal. So a lot of times the autism community or people with speech language pathology use these pictures for communication. And so Boardmaker has provided those in partnership with Microsoft so that you can click on a word and have meaning. And you see that little speaker there means that you can also click on it and have it spoken aloud.
Moved.
So I really love this. I also love that they provide different options of a word when possible. So we've got all these different varieties of the word jumping. And lastly, one of the latest features to roll out is translate. And so we can translate this document by simply a word, or we can translate the entire document And right up here, we've got more than 60, actually, I think it's right about 60 different languages we can translate the document into. So I've got it set for Spanish. And there we are. It's now translated to Spanish, and we can click on our text-to-speech button. So it's reading with a really nice accent, I think. We also have picture dictionary that will follow. I don't speak Spanish, so it's hard for me to click on a word here and find a picture. Bear with me. There we go. So the picture dictionary follows, and again, you know, same thing. We can have it spoken.
Barbilla.
The other great thing about this is you can toggle between both the original version and the Spanish version right here with a click of a button. So this is actually really helpful for my high school senior who is in Spanish for part of his college requirements and sometimes comes across content that is difficult for him. So again, something that was built to serve a very specific population really becomes a tool that almost anybody can identify with using in different manners, much like texting is today. We all use it, but it was initially created for people who are deaf and hard of hearing. So in a nutshell, this is how Immersive Reader works in OneNote Notebook. I'm going to, while I get prepared for moving on to showing you the other places you can access the text-to-speech or Immersive Reader, I'm going to let you guys type in a few questions if you have them. So feel free to use your text, the chat window, and type in some questions while we're getting ready to move to the other areas. Okay. So I have a question that I'm really not sure how to answer. It looks like people are requesting to be the presenter, and I'm not understanding why that's, I've never had that question. I'm not understanding why that's being requested or necessary. Does it have to do with view? Please text back your answer. And maybe Diane can help with that. But it looks like there's a number of people requesting, so.
I don't see that one. I see, can you slow the speed of the reader?
Yes, you can. You have the control of the reader down here where I'm clicking the button. You can change the speed. So, okay, we're going to move over to Edge browser. So Edge browser, if you guys can see the bottom of my screen right now, you can see that I have Google, guilty as charged, and I use it quite frequently, but I also have this E over here on the left side, and that's Microsoft's Edge browser. And so these tools and features are built into Microsoft's Edge browser, which you can easily download and use on your own, no matter what type of device you have. And so first, I'm going to show you like just a basic Wikipedia search. So if you're thinking, again, students doing some research for their homework and they're needing to look something up through Wikipedia, they have the ease and ability to just, you know, right click and use the Read Aloud feature.
Built-in 70 to 80 AD. Built by /4.
It's way over on the other side.
Oh, known as the Flavian Amphitheater, Latin, amphitheatre.
Okay, so up in the right here, we have pause and play. And I'm not sure if our GoToMeeting thing is in your way as it is mine. I'm going to assume that it might possibly be if it's sharing my screen. So I've moved it so that you guys can see the controls up here. So up here we have pause, play, skip ahead, and skip back. So these features are a little different looking than when we were in OneNote, but that's because we're on mainstream internet. And you also have voice settings here, so you can control the voice and the speed. So this is in Wikipedia. I'm going to call out up here in my search bar that there's a little book, and that is in gray, so it's dimmed out and you cannot use that. The reason I'm calling that out is because if we go over to I'm sorry, someone's going to need to mute their background. Whoever just joined us has some background noise coming through.
I'm so sorry.
In your computer, that would be awesome. All right, so we've got an internet search here. I pulled up Trader Joe's because it's very non-controversial. Everybody grocery shops. Okay, so we've got Trader Joe's here. And you can see that this book is in bold. If I click on that, that's going to give me a reading view. And then it's wiping out all of the ads. And so it's setting me up to be able to use the same features that we were talking about in OneNote. So over here, if I click this, I can change my text sizing. I can add a little bit of text spacing. And I can also change the background color. Here's our grammar options again. And so if I wanted to, I could have words broken into syllables or highlight our nouns, verbs, and adjectives. And the button you're looking for the Read Aloud is this little one in the middle. It looks like
our story timeline. www.
So really amazing. Mainstream internet search. You can click on a reading view, wipe out the ads, and then access all of these reading features that we showed you in OneNote. For the Read Aloud, they call it Read Aloud in Edge browser, but it's really, Immersive Reader. So it depends on which website you're searching, what level of accessibility you'll have with the tools, but I've shown you two different ones. So Wikipedia is a little bit different than would be something like mainstream internet looking for Trader Joe's. But those features and tools are built in for people to access. I'm going to go to one of our online features. So remember when we started, I told you about OneNote having a desktop version and an online version. The same thing goes for Microsoft Word. And so if you don't have a computer that has the desktop version of Microsoft Word, you're going to use the free online version of Microsoft Word. And any educator or student email address will enable you to have the free online version. So in this case, we've got again, Word Online. Whoops, let's just refresh my session here. We've got Word Online, and we're going to use a Word document here to use the Immersive Reader. I'm going to show you how that works. So similarly to OneNote Notebook, we're going to go under the View tab. And we're going to, go to Immersive Reader. One of the things I'm going to do is move my cursor down here. I'm going to go to Immersive Reader, and it's going to do the same thing as it did in OneNote. It's going to put a skin over top of the page. And right now you're noticing that I've already got a background color and I've got highlighting of grammar. And the reason for that is that it syncs up with OneNote Notebook. So everything I just set up when I was demonstrating the OneNote Notebook, it's assuming I want to read that way. It has memory and it syncs up both with OneNote and Word. And so it's just going to read in that manner for me every time. Certainly I can change those features, but it's just assuming that we want the same thing.
À vaincre sans péril, on triomphe sans gloire.
No dejes para mañana lo que puedas hacer hoy.
أنزل يوري أمور ياساشي.
أحضر الناس جوابا من لم يغضب.
So that's just an example of some of the languages it reads, and you'll notice that last one in Arabic, it's reading right to left as it should. So they've done an amazing job with building this technology and having it work accordingly, as you'd expect in different languages. So that's again Word Online. And you have all the same features that I showed you in OneNote already built in. All right, so we're going to move back into the PowerPoint for a few minutes before we actually, I'm not going to move back in the PowerPoint quite yet. I'm going to show you a sample video from the PowerPoint, and then we're going to go back into OneNote Notebook really quickly. So the reason being is there's an alternative format for getting text into OneNote Notebook. So I'm going to show you, please note this slide that we're looking at, an Office Lens. This is what it looks like in the App Store. This is a free Microsoft-based app for any phone, Android, and iPad. And this tool is amazing. It runs OCR on a handwriting or print text. So I'm going to show you a quick video of how that works.
Move down. No, move up. Ready. Document, image. Immersive Reader, button. Scanning text. Geography, the study of Earth's landforms is...
Okay, so you can see that you scan text, it runs OCR. I'm gonna pause this right here. It's at Immersive Reader because you have a couple of different options. You can choose to upload your stuff into OneNote or Word, or even PowerPoint and Outlook. There's a number of different choices. Right here, it's using an Immersive Reader. So for the video that you saw, this individual is choosing to use Immersive Reader on their device that's on them, and it's very likely a phone. So again, you can have it read aloud to you on your phone. So think of our middle school, high school, or even adults, and them not needing to have access to content and needing to have that text to speech immediately versus having to load something into a computer and then go sit down at a desktop device. It is available phone and iPad. But again, you can use it, load it up to OneNote. And I'm going to escape out of our PowerPoint quickly, go back to my OneNote notebook, and I'm going to click on my son's notebook and show you some of the content. First of all, what just popped up is one of his homework assignments. And so you can snap a photo of a homework assignment, again, any text. And in this case, he's using text boxes of the photo and then dictating his answers in. That is something that's entirely possible using the Office Lens feature. And so again, here, this is an accessibility piece for him in turning in assignments. But then also, I'm going to click on this is a multi-page language arts assignment that he came home with, and while he has dyslexia and was diagnosed in kindergarten, immediately got the interventions that he needed to be successful. He doesn't really struggle to read, but he looks at this type of stuff, especially when it's multi-pages, and he just is a hot mess. So for him, what we did is I asked him, do you want to ear read or sight read? And he chose ear reading that evening. And so we snapped photos with our Office Lens, we loaded it into OneNote, and then you go to clicking on Immersive Reader, and again, it's popping that skin over the page, so you've got text to speech. You've got all of those features that we discussed before, like picture dictionary. Let's see, picture dictionary doesn't work for every word, but here we go. So you've got picture dictionary following with a bit of text that was literally just snapped in a photo. So really amazing features. And I would honestly, just as my kids often say, if you get confused about something, YouTube has a video for it. So all of these tools and features, there are videos out there. Microsoft has videos on YouTube. Microsoft has videos on their website as well. In my PowerPoint slides at the end, we have all sorts of links for you guys. So you will all receive the PowerPoint deck and access to those slides after this webinar. So we're going to go back into PowerPoint for a minute before we move on to writing, and I'm going to show you a video quickly. We're going to listen to kids who have used these tools and how they feel about accessing with these assistive technologies.
The true purpose of education is to create possibility.
It was a little hard for me. People laugh whenever I read sometimes.
Well, they knew how to read, and I didn't.
I will never be good at reading. I will probably be held back again.
It highlights the words that know where I am.
When it's reading, I see spaces between the words, and it's easy to focus on.
The first time I actually could read that book
I was proud of myself. I was very proud of myself. Good job, Joey.
When technology and education come together, possibility becomes reality.
I want to read every book in here.
Whoops, we're gonna move on. I love that video. I think it's amazing to hear students talk about what their experiences are, being able to access content that they maybe were not able to do, in knowing how children feel being part of educational environments where they don't really feel included in that learning community. So, so you hear it right there from the children, and we'll talk about them in another slide or two. But just want to call out the Dyslexic Advantage community themselves back in 2016 called out Microsoft OneNote and Learning Tools as one of the top apps in 2016. Also, the British Dyslexia Association and the Noel Hill School, which is a dyslexia school in the UK, they did a trial. They found that 16 out of 18 children showed improved behavior, and 11 out of 16 saw their comprehension get better when integrating Microsoft Learning Tools into their classrooms. And this photo here, especially the teacher in the blue cardigan, her name's Lauren Pittman. I've had the pleasure of working with her, and she's just an amazing educator. She integrated Microsoft Learning Tools. She was an early adopter and integrated this into her special education classroom as a support. I think it's important for me to call out that this is a support tool. And again, when integrated, can really help students. It is not meant to take place of effective classroom instruction, and it is definitely not meant to take place of effective interventions for students. But when integrated, as you saw from those children, there's something that really provides them a leg up, makes them feel part of their learning community, and gives them growth and independence. And so Lauren Pittman's classroom, I'm just going to call out one of her students in particular. Sorry about that. I need my magnifier. And so, you know, students who are in special education have annual goals. In Lauren Pittman's class, you know, she saw when she integrated learning tools a lot of growth for her students. In particular, student number 4 had an annual goal of 60 correct words a minute. The end result was that they achieved 90 words a minute, so they surpassed their reading goal by 30 words a minute before the end of the school year. Again, you guys will have access to these slides, so you'll be able to take a look at all this information yourselves, but really amazing. I know as a parent, I don't often see that type of growth in an IEP, and so it's just, you know, really wonderful to hear when there is success. As I mentioned before, during the hackathon, post-hackathon, they learned that emerging readers were showing benefits. And again, in schools where we have people utilizing Microsoft Learning Tools and creating non-stigmatizing classrooms, they're just allowing all students to have access to these tools and choose when and how they would like to consume their content. So some of them are just given access to ear reading all the time, and we're showing first grade emerging readers using learning tools and success with that. Here's another photo. And then Microsoft did a study with RTI, and they did a 6-week study and looked at students in 4th grade, students in 6th to 8th grade, and then 10th to 12th grade. And during that time, they showed reading comprehension scores improved, writing improved, and non-cognitive processes also improved. There's a full report, 30-page deep dive study at this link here, which I think is a really interesting read. So again, something for you guys to look at post-webinar. Okay, so we covered OneNote Desktop. So I'm gonna give you kind of a backdrop on what we covered on the reading before we move into writing. We covered OneNote Desktop. We covered not really OneNote Online because I'm not brave enough to open my, I'm sorry, I'm ahead of myself. We talked about OneNote Online. What I didn't cover was Outlook Online because I'm not brave enough to open up my Outlook inbox in front of a bunch of people, but you're gonna have to trust me that these tools are built into Outlook Online and fully usable. We covered Word Online, and we are going to cover Word Desktop when we go into our writing piece. And we also discussed Edge browser and utilizing these features in Edge browser with Windows 10. This is what we affectionately call our Microsoft Learning Tools periodic chart. So this shows you availability across different platforms and the different features that you get while using those. And now let's talk about the writing tools that are built in for students to more effectively create content. First, I'm going to show you a picture. This is kind of a visceral picture of some students at the Knoll Hill School for Dyslexia in the UK. And Headmaster Jan Lusty says, pretty much without exception, her students hate writing. If you are someone who struggles with dyslexia, writing is going to be pretty difficult. And so, you know, these guys were asked to write a one-page story, 100 words. Here's a planning sheet for one of these students who's 9 years old. And you can see in the highlighted areas that the text, or that is what this student is writing himself. And then the other areas is where the teacher is scribing. Okay, sorry about that. I have a bit of a cold. So this page here is what that same student wrote completely independently using OneNote and dictation that I'm going to show you in just a couple minutes. So clearly very different. And as I often do, I talk about my own students, my own children, and this is a story planning sheet for my son, who was at the time in 6th grade, and this is a one-page story he was asked to write in language arts. His dyslexia is pretty profound, and he struggles also with dysgraphia quite deeply. And so again, like many students who struggle, if you talk to them and ask them what they'd like to write, they can really clearly paint you a story of what's in their mind, but the manual task of writing gets in the way of relaying what's in their head. And so again, here's what my son wrote. It actually took him an entire hour of his special education classroom. Whoops, sorry about that. And then, you know, he was confident that this was great and he was going to turn this in, and I asked him, you know, would he like to use a different tool that could help him? And so I gave him dictation, and this is the end result. Had this been handwritten, it would be well more than one page, but the content is a lot deeper here. His sentence structure is better. He's got clear, concise sentences. And so, you know, again, using dictation gives him the ability to do what we call a brain download, and he can simply get the information out. And then he can also toggle between using dictation and then the Read Aloud feature, or, you know, the other feature we also call Immersive Reader, and have that read aloud to him. So he can toggle back and forth between the two of those to get a really great piece of work here. And this actually only took him 12 minutes. So I mean, we literally removed the roadblocks, and he was flying with this. So this is amazing. And so I will demonstrate that in just a minute. And actually in the event of time, I'm just going to go straight into demonstrating so you guys have the ability to see these. So we're going to go into Word, and Word has a number of unique features built in and updated that are really effective in helping students create content. The first one I'm going to show you is our increased spell checker and editor capabilities. So you can see that I've misspelled a word here by the red squiggly line, and I could simply right click, and I'm going to get a drop down list that's going to help me choose, well, which version of principle did I mean? Previously, if you're someone who struggles with spelling, you're going to get a drop down list of a number of possibilities, but no sort of context cues to help you disambiguate. Well, which version did I mean? So here now we've increased the spell checker to the most commonly made mistakes that dyslexics make, and then also given these context cues. And so we can also right click and click on Read Aloud so that it'll read these things to us. Another thing that we can do, if you can see that I've got multiple things underlined and we want to go through the entire document, is we can click on the Review tab, and then we can move over to Check Document. And with that, an editor pane is going to pop up. And this is going to walk me through how to correct the entire document. So you can see I've got one spelling, and it's going to, there we go. We can get our drop down list there of things that we need to do. I can choose to ignore it once, ignore it all, or add it to the dictionary. So I'm going to ignore it here so I can move on to our other pieces. We see that we've got grammar issues. And so again, if we click on that, it's going to tell me what I should do. I'm going to ignore it in this case so we can continue walking through. Here's another one, affect versus affect, contribute, and it's suggesting I use contributes. And then just continuing on all the way down to clarity and conciseness issues. And so again, it'll suggest here what I should possibly do. So that's something that's enabling students to more effectively and independently create content without someone standing over their shoulder or sitting beside them. Another feature I had talked about was dictation. And so this is really an amazing piece. It is not something that's built in. You do need to download it. And that download is dictate.ms. It's free. So dictate.ms. It's also going to be at the end of my slide deck for those of you that might not have heard it clearly or if I'm talking fast. So I'm going to show you how this works. I have my dictation tab. I click on my button. I'm using dictation in Microsoft Word. This is an amazing tool, much like dictating with my iPhone. I absolutely love it. I use it daily. So you can see that it also, first of all, it's very easy to understand what I'm saying. I didn't have to train it. Some dictation features require you to train it, and it clearly understands me, and it's auto-punctuating. I did not have to do any of that. So I am a huge fan of this. Obviously my son is as well. The other neat thing about it is oftentimes we get questions, well, will it work in a classroom? It does work in a classroom. The features are, the speaker and the features are built so that they're focusing on the voice that's closest to it. And last year I demonstrated this tool at the IDA National Conference in Connecticut in a busy exhibition hall, and it was able to, with very few errors, pick up what I was saying. So very loud place, a lot of bodies, a lot of voices, and really had minimal difficulty in picking up what I was saying. So that is dictation, and the editor pane, and our increased spell checkers. And one last feature I'd like to call out is word prediction, which we do have. And I'm going to go to our slide deck to show you how you access that. Excuse me. So word prediction was in the April 2018 update in Windows 10, and it's amazing. It is available by going into your settings. So I'm over here hovering over this. You go into your settings, and then you type into the search bar typing and literally highlight the show text suggestions as I type. And so once you have that done, it works in Word Online and Word Desktop, but it'll work in also in Outlook email as well. So wonderful features built in to help students create content in a more efficient, effective, and independent manner. So that said, we have time for a few more questions before I let you guys go this afternoon. So type your questions into the chat bar and I will start to answer those. I know that was fast and furious, so I also want to welcome anyone to reach out to me with questions at any time. Feel free to email me. So I'm going to put my email address back up on the screen here so that you guys have access to that. And then I will share with both the Pennsylvania IDA and Pennsylvania DD the slide deck so that you guys can have access to that.
Rachel, do you see that there are some questions? Are you able to see those?
Yeah, let me just scroll down. So just before I get to those, I frequently do webinars for school groups. So if anyone is an educator and wants their educator peers to have a webinar, it's free, it's available to you. I'm offering that out there. So feel free to reach out. Okay, what advantages do MS tools have over Google Read Write? So those that I demonstrated for you, again, the dictation is superior. I know I'm biased, but my sons do use Google. That's they use Chromebooks or Chromebook School, and so you know, we've got a much more effective dictation built in at the editor pane with also translator, which I was not able to show you. So those are things that are over Google Read Write. When will I be making the recording available? That should be available pretty quickly after our webinar, Deborah. Okay, scrolling up here. I have not, Teresa, I have not used dictation with children that stutter. I haven't heard about anyone using it. I would love to hear how that goes. I'm not certain how it works with that, but I would really be interested to hear how that feature would work. So if you try it out and have any experiences, I'd love to hear your feedback. What version of Word? The latest version of Word is what we're using. We're using Windows 10, Office 365. For all of these features. Okay, I see if we use OneNote on a device like an iPad or Google Chromebook, are the features available or are they limited? There may be some limitations depending on the operating system, but you should get most of those. These features were created to work across all platforms and give everyone accessibility. It oftentimes depends on your school's IT department. And so again, students on IEP or 504 are having, you know, a specific disability in which they want to access these tools, I think is a very good case for the school IT person to enable accessibility. Okay, I think, I'm just checking through to see if I've gotten all the questions. Last one, looks like Carrie, will the webinar be sent to all attendees? And yes, it will be. I would say it's probably really valuable to be able to kind of watch through it and slow it down and access that so that you can learn how to use these tools on your own. So yes, you will have that.
This is Diane. We will have this a link available on our website, and we can email the link to all of you as well, if that's okay with you, Rachel.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, are there any other questions? We do have 5 minutes left, so if there aren't any questions, I can either let you guys off early or show you how translator works in Word as well, which I think is a really unique feature to use. Diane, you let me know.
I'm gonna leave that to, are there any other questions? If you have a few minutes and you want to do that, and you can do that with us, that would be great, yep. Rachel.
I can. I think it's really valuable to understand, you know, all of that. Obviously, I can't cover everything, but because we have the time and I was trying to clip along steadily, I would love to show you guys how translator works in Word. So you should be looking at my Amazon Rainforest document. Is that correct, Diane?
Yes. Sorry,
okay.
I was.
Yeah, no problem. So under the review tab, again, that's where editor is. It's also where Read Aloud is, and I just realized I forgot to show you with dictation how you use the Read Aloud feature. So Read Aloud, just the same as, you know, using the Immersive Reader in OneNote Notebook. And here in Microsoft Word, the desktop version is called Read Aloud, but you'd click on that, and it'd read things aloud.
Now widely discussed.
So one of the neat things that I think is also available here is Translate. And if we click on this button, we can set our preferences. Mine is already auto set to Spanish, even though I don't read that. But it's for this purpose, excuse me, I have set it to Spanish. And the reason I want to call out Translator is many of us work with students with learning disabilities, whether we're a parent of one or an educator or an advocate. We work with students who have learning disabilities, and we know that learning disabilities know no socioeconomic or ethnic backgrounds. And so, you know, students experience dyslexia across the continuum, and we want to ensure that students with dyslexia who are maybe also non-native speakers have access to content, you know, that they need. And in addition to that, their parents as well. And so sometimes what happens is we have students who are non-native speakers, and they're, you know, have an IEP or 504, and then their parents aren't able to fully participate as an advocate in, you know, to the fullest capacity because they're a non-native speaker. And so again, when you think about any homework or IEP 504 documents, if they're saved as a Word document, you can easily translate them with a click of a button right here. And so here I've got my translator popping up. Like I said, it's auto set to Spanish, so I can just click that. And then our entire document is translated into Spanish. And again, I can go under that View tab and use Learning Tools and have that read aloud, so that, you know, I could either read it myself or use that text-to-speech feature. And I think that's a really valuable tool, again, in creating accessibility and ensuring that everybody is able to equitably participate in advocating for the students. So you'll notice, again, under the Review tab, we've got a Read Aloud, and then under View tab, it's called Learning Tools. So there's two different features there. You can use Read Aloud, and it's simply going to highlight and read the text. And under the View tab, using Learning Tools, much like what we saw before, you know, we can adjust the text spacing, the syllables, the line focus, the page color, and then here we've got a column width again. So you've got, you know, the ability to choose how you'd like to view that. So that's, you know, again, in a nutshell, all of these different features that were built in to create accessibility and really empower every person on the planet to achieve more, especially our kids who need a little bit of extra support. So any last comments before we leave? Shelley. Yeah.
I was just going to say Shelley has a question.
Is the Dictate.ms app available for the online version? It's already built into the online version, I believe. Yeah, online things are already built in. Where is it under? Well, one of the things that might be possible here is I don't fully have, yeah, there it is. It's under Home, Dictate, right here. So online usually gets everything updated, whereas your desktop versions are going to depend on you to do all of those updates. And so one of the things I would call out here, if you're like I used to behave and you get these notifications on your computer that say, hey, we've got updates for you, and you're kind of like, my computer's working fine. What do I need those for? Wrong mindset. You do want your updates whenever it tells you to, or you can set your computer to do updates at night when it's shut down just automatically. And I will tell you personally, it's like when I open my computer and there's been updates, it's like opening a Christmas present in the morning. It's like, oh my gosh, look at that. I now have Translator built into OneNote Notebook. So it's really wonderful. Want to encourage you guys to update your computer as often as you can. Carrie, thanks for joining us. I appreciate your comments. Feedback is definitely helpful for me. So any last comments or parting words? I'd love to hear. Or even if you send those to Diane afterwards.
This was great, Rachel. Thank you so much. I don't know that we have any other questions. We will make sure that you have all of these materials, access to them after this session. But thank you all for joining us. And Rachel, great job. We may have Rachel back again, maybe in the fall. For those
happy to do it.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Thanks, Diane. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate it. And go ahead and try everything out. And I would love to hear your feedback. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you all. Thank you, Rachel.
Thank you. Bye-bye.